of the newly formed political party, the Afrika Mayibuye Movement, Floyd Shivambu, claims his organization has reached a stage in 4 months that the economic freedom fighters should have achieved in 8 or 9 years. Shivambu claimed the party's growth was at the stage where the EFF should have achieved in 8 or 9 years. For more, we are now joined by the leader of Afrika Mayibuye, Mr. Shivambu. Thank you so much for your time and for joining us, making that comparison to the EFF. Maybe just talk to us about the growth that you've seen with your party in the last few months.
I think let's give context first as to
Please do.
The press conference that we had yesterday. So we held a press conference yesterday in Midrand to announce that we are convening a national convention on the 5th to the 7th of December this year in Soweto, so at the University of Johannesburg, Soweto campus. So we will be having delegates from all the 257 municipalities of South Africa, from all the regions, from provinces, from the women, the youth, and student structures, but also representatives of our strategic ally, which is MAUSA, the Manda-Hashu Workers Union of South Africa, a union that represents EPWP workers. Yeah. So in the interaction, and actually just made a remark, it was not the major issue in terms of comparison. Right. I was just making a reflection that some of the leaders, most of who played a role in the EFF at its foundational stages, were making a correct observation that the manner in which, from the consultation process of Mayibuye to the forming of the organization, the manner in which the organization got to take shape on the ground far exceeds what the former organization which we founded got to gain ground and have presence in all corners of South Africa. So it's a fact that Afrika Mayibuye Movement exists in all corners of South Africa now. There's just finalization in one region in KwaZulu-Natal of Mzinyati region, which involves Msinga, Endumeni, Umvoti, and Ngutu municipalities. There's just finalization. I know the provincial leadership of KwaZulu-Natal was finalizing the structures there. And these are structures constituted of credible activists and community leaders with a proper gender and generational balance, meaning that it's not just young people, it's a matured activists who are associating with Afrika Mayibuye Movement. So, and it will be demonstrated when we move forward that in a very short space of time we're able to conjure and put in place a solid organization and machinery on the ground, because the most important thing for any organization is to have presence in all corners of South Africa, particularly if you have the organizational mandate and aspirations which Afrika Mayibuye carries. Because out of the consultation process that we undertook from the 19th of June, we got a lot of very sound and solid submissions from the people of South Africa as to what should constitute the primary agenda of our movement. And to carry all those mandates and the focus that were given by the people of South Africa, you need an organization that is present in all corners of South Africa. And that is what we are now, that in a very short space of time, we've been able to have presence in all corners of South Africa.
Most certainly. So speaking about some of that which people had put to you in order for there to be changes in South Africa, the Commission of Inquiry into Black Poverty was something that stood out, in which you mentioned. Maybe just talk to us about that. It's certainly not something that has not been done, particularly in South Africa.
Yeah, it has never been done in the new dispensation.
Yes.
So we actually have released a brief policy perspective that outlines what such a commission will seek to achieve and how it should be constituted. We actually give a historical context that when the white-only government was empowering white people, it began by having extensive and expansive organic commissions which involved the people who were affected by poverty. When the Afrikaners were in the same conditions as the majority of the black people, they had a commission called the Carnegie Commission, which got to investigate that. And out of real interaction with the people who were affected by poverty, and a report was then compiled with concrete recommendations, and that led to the abolishment of white poverty in South Africa intergenerationally, in terms of what happened historically. Also, we give example in the document that the Good Hope Conference was a commission-like engagement which later on gave birth to the homeland factories and industrial projects that took place in the Transkei, in Venda, in Ciskei, in Lebowa, in Gazankulu. It was a planned program as to what gets to happen. And then we concretely are now proposing that there has to be a commission of inquiry into black poverty in South Africa, because all other measures and mechanisms that have been adopted since 1994 have not worked. And that is demonstrated by the fact that poverty of black people has never been below 50% in terms of those who are affected directly. You have got people who are jobless, homeless, and even those who have got jobs constitute a component of the working poor. You've got a lot of spaces, actually majority of spaces which are occupied by black people are defined by multi-dimensional poverty levels that demonstrate deprivation. And out of, by the way, the consultation process of Mayibuye, we got to realize that our people know what is to be done. They know what are the interventions that have to be done to take them out of the conditions that they're currently in. So you can check in the multiple submissions that we received as to what do we do differently. But in a current state of affairs and governance framework of South Africa, our people do not have a voice. They're only called after every 5 years to go and vote. There's never been a platform where government or public representatives go to listen to people to say, what do we do about your conditions? There's, of course, high-level statistics of Stats SA, which are an aggregated number of the number of people who are poor or affected by poverty directly. But government cannot tell you ward per ward, municipality per municipality, as to what are the needs and what are the localized solutions which the people are proposing should be done. So we are proposing a people-centered commission.
And that would speak to your strategy in terms of how then you put together your leadership structures to be on the ground. Yes,
so that is basically the character of Afrika Mayibuye Movement. That is an organization that says that let the people truly govern, not that you must just vote and then those who have been voted must go and govern in some corner somewhere, and then they come back after 5 years to be given another mandate without the people being involved on the day-to-day solutions as to how do we get to deal with the crisis of poverty in South Africa. It's at the highest level, and it's defined by landlessness, by no proper access to health care, no proper education systems on the ground, dilapidating infrastructure, be it roads and everything else that defines black people. In informal settlements, it's worse. There's nothing that reflects that there's a government in South Africa, because our people just erect shacks there, no sanitation, no roads, no formalization of anything. So there has to be an intense and purposeful focus on the poverty question in South Africa, because we made an observation yesterday that while it is important to look into commissions that deal with wrongdoing, particularly in the South African Police Service and the criminal justice system, there has to be focus on issues that impact the lives of the people. The country can't be discussing for months and months some police inquiries and commissions
But South Africans
in terms of
are saying that they are
happen.
commission fatigued. So if we're bringing through another commission in which, if we're not having faith in any of the commissions that are currently happening, what would be the difference?
Yeah, so the difference we actually explain in the policy perspective that we've already issued out and we're still going to enrich, that the distinguishing factor about the Commission of Inquiry into Black Poverty is that it should have practical and binding recommendations and solutions as to how do we immediately, or in the short term, long term, in medium term, how do we respond to some of the pressing issues around the fact that our people are poor. Because as things stand, there is no plan in South Africa that can tell you in greater detail as to what is going to be done by government or by anyone in the localized spaces. So even if you were to go to a municipality in Umhlabalingana, in Jozini, in Umtubatuba, you can go to a municipality in Musina, in Makado, in Collins Chabani, in Tulamela. And if you were to ask the people who are leading government there as to how is this village going to look different in 5 years' time, they won't be able to tell you, because the villages have just been neglected without any improvement. There is no change that has happened. If anything, if there's a change, it's a dilapidating change, meaning that the villages are even getting worse than they were in the past. So there has to be a dedicated focus as to how do we deal with the poverty question, because it appears that this poverty has become intergenerational. It has actually, this democratic government has basically fitted properly to what the architects of apartheid said, that black people must be nothing but hewers of wood and drawers of water. So and that is what we are. And that is the major issue that we are saying South Africa must pay attention to. Issues that have got developmental and socio-economic impact on the lives of our people.
And then that change certainly needs to happen, like you say, first and foremost at the polls. And judging with the polls and the number of people that went out to vote in 2024 shows a significant number of people in South Africa that are quite despondent. So what do you think is going to change South Africans between now and then to make a change in terms of who they vote for those changes to be effective?
So actually, we make that observation as well, that in 1994, more than 90 million South Africans voted in the general elections. And the population of South Africa was just about 40 million. In 2024, less than 16.5 million people voted. So it was like 16.4 billion, somewhere there. Despite that, the population is at 63 million now in terms of the latest data from Stats SA. And that is against the fact that the eligible voters, the adult population above the age of 18 in South Africa is more than 40 million. But the number is going down. And what does that demonstrate? It demonstrates the very same point that we are raising, that our people are voiceless. They do not have a platform. They've realized that this democracy is just voting and nothing changes. We do not have a platform. We do not have anywhere where we can voice our concerns in terms of the issues that we're dealing with. I'll give you a simple example that when we went to Umhlabalingana for the public consultation, we met with a group of small-scale farmers, majority of whom are females. There's a river that passes the land where they are involved in small-scale farming. They say, we need a 40,000 rand machine to draw water from the river so that we can have an irrigation system to look after our crops here. And these crops, if we look after them, after every 3 months we harvest, we go to the market, we're able to generate income that sustains our households and take care of our families. But we have been making cries to government, and we've been trying to reach out to government here at the local level, at the provincial level, as there is no one who is paying attention to our crisis. If you listen to what Nkosi Mthethwa in Mandeni says about the solutions that can be attended to now, you realize that if there was a government that engages with the people, there was going to be solutions that are coming out of the input of the people. But currently, government framework and structures only focuses on compliance to procurement laws, and then they celebrate that we've reached clean audit when they've never had any significant impact on the lives of the people. So what we're calling for as Mayibuye is that let us pay attention, let us pay collective attention to the poverty of our people, particularly those that were historically excluded by colonialism and apartheid, because the design of colonial conquest and apartheid was to keep black people in poverty and in spaces where they can be nothing but suppliers of cheap and easily disposable labor. And we cannot have that in the so-called democratic dispensation. And that is what we're saying should be done differently. And that is the model that we will apply when we rise and take over the municipalities and government of South Africa, because the people know their conditions, the people know what should be done, and the solutions are not the same everywhere.
Right.
It's different solutions everywhere in different municipalities. So, and that can only happen if you have a people-centered and people-driven commission of inquiry as to the poverty question. There's multiple examples, by the way, that we can give globally in South Korea, in Japan, in Singapore, as to how a thorough process, an organic process that involves the people, got to lead to massive industrial expansion and a broader development of the communities that got to contribute as to what are the solutions to the challenges that they're confronted with on a daily basis. And that is the solid proposition that Afrika Mayibuye is coming with, and we will of course continuously speak about this until the whole of society appreciates that this is a necessary and a better and much more superior alternative to what has been happening since 1994.
And are you lending your voice to the G20 summit in any way in ensuring that those that are voiceless are also included in some of those recommendations and communique on such global platforms?
Yeah, we made some observations about the G20 that majority of times G20's outcomes do not have any impact on the ground because they are non-binding outcomes. It's just a group of elites who gather to talk about issues, and there's no practical action that is taken out of those discussions. So G20 is another global talk shop of the elite that doesn't have an appreciation of the conditions of the people. What is said, though, is that as part of preparation for the G20, the South African government, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, went to consult with a professor from the university, Columbia University from America, who has never been to any rural area in South Africa. He doesn't know what are the challenges that confront our people on the ground. And that is a primary and chief advisor of the South African government going to the presidency of the G20. But there are certain things which, despite our doubts about the capacity of the South African government, there are certain things which we said must be looked into, and that includes adding to the voice of condemning and stopping all the illicit financial flows and resources theft out of the African continent, particularly from South Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo, because these Western powers are collaborating with criminal elements to steal resources from there. But also we had said that South Africa should be part of the voices that call for the reconfiguration of the global governance institutions, including the United Nations. At least something would have gone towards a different direction.
Most certainly. All right, but thank you for your time. We certainly will be looking at how far Afrika Mayibuye would be championing for the voices of truly those that are downtrodden in South Africa. That's the leader there, Floyd Shivambu, just giving us a breakdown from some of the issues that were ventilated in that press briefing that happened yesterday. We'll be back at the top of the hour with more. Do stay with us.